She was a pregnant bride, abandoned, heartbroken, and alone. With nothing left but the will to survive, she found a job at a car wash. Each day she scrubbed and rinsed, soaking her hands in cold water and her dreams in silence. One afternoon, as she finished washing an expensive foreign SUV, she overheard a conversation that would change everything. But before we dive in, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments and enjoy the story. Natalie stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress. The lace, delicate and airy, seemed to contrast cruelly with the heaviness inside her chest. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Today was the day she would marry the man she loved, Ethan. They had dreamed of a big family, a cozy home filled with laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. Natalie's hand gently rested on her belly, just starting to show beneath the layers of her wedding gown. A small secret she had kept until now. A gift, she thought, that would mark the beginning of their forever. An hour later, she stood beneath a wedding arch, waiting for Ethan at the county clerk's office. Her heart pounded in her chest, palms sweating. And then she saw him. He walked toward her, confident, striking, magnetic. Her breath caught. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. They stepped aside into a quiet room, away from the crowd. Natalie took a deep breath, trying to calm the trembling inside her. "Ethan, I'm pregnant." She held her breath, anticipating his joy, imagining how he'd lift her in his arms and spin her around. But instead, his face twisted. He recoiled as if she were diseased. "What?" he rasped. "You're pregnant?" Natalie nodded, stunned. "Yes, Ethan, I wanted to surprise you." "Surprise?" He scoffed with bitterness. "You just ruined my life." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I thought you'd be happy." "Happy?" he snapped. "I'm not ready for a kid. I have plans. Real plans. I'm not spending my money on diapers." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked at the man she no longer recognized. Gone was the Ethan she loved. In his place stood someone cruel, selfish, unfamiliar. "But what about us?" she choked out. "What about our family?" "There is no family," he said coldly. "I'm leaving." "Leaving? To where?" Natalie couldn't comprehend what was happening. "Away from you. I want nothing to do with this." He turned toward the door. She ran after him. "Please, Ethan, don't go," she pleaded. "Think about the baby." He stopped but didn't look back. "The baby is your problem. I don't owe you anything." And with that, he walked out, leaving Natalie alone in a wedding dress, with a shattered heart and a future torn apart. She sank to the floor, sobbing, her tears washing away the last traces of her bridal makeup, betrayed, abandoned, utterly alone. After what felt like hours, she rose, exhausted. In the mirror, she saw a pale face, swollen eyes, and a woman who looked like she'd aged a decade in a day. She glanced at her belly, at the small life growing inside her. A new strength stirred in her. "No," she whispered. "He won't break me. I will fight. For me. For my child." She called her friend Sarah, who rushed over in shock and embraced her. "What are you going to do now?" Sarah asked gently. "I don't know," Natalie replied, "but I have to move on. I need to find a job. I can't sit here and do nothing." Sarah offered her a place to stay until she got back on her feet. Gratefully, Natalie accepted. The next morning, Natalie began her job hunt. She walked from store to cafe to diner, but no one wanted to hire a pregnant woman with no work experience. The rejection felt like a vice tightening around her hope. Money was running out. Time was slipping away. One day, she passed by a car wash and saw a sign. "Help wanted." She paused. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But it was something. She walked in and asked for the manager. The job was still open, and they told her she could start the next day. That night, she lay in bed, listening to the silence. Her friend was on the night shift, and the apartment felt empty. She forced herself to eat dinner, took a hot shower, and curled into bed, thinking about Ethan and everything she had lost. Then she fell asleep, deeply, like a body surrendering. Tomorrow would be her first day on the job. If you've ever had to start over from nothing, you know the weight of that kind of morning. Natalie dried her hands on an old rag, her shoulders aching from endless scrubbing. The car wash was packed that day, engines rumbling, hoses spraying, chemicals stinging her nose. Even the usual scent of wet rubber felt more offensive than usual. Then she saw him. A black SUV, spotless and elegant, rolled into the lot like royalty. A man stepped out, tall, sharp, dressed in a crisp business suit. He spoke on his phone, gesturing briskly, not noticing anyone around him. Natalie couldn't help but watch. There was something about him, something composed, powerful, different. She lowered her gaze and focused on the next car, embarrassed by her own curiosity. This is no time to think about men, she told herself, but his voice cut through the noise. I just don't know what to do anymore, he said, frustration in his tone. I've been through every agency. I need to work. I can't keep leaving the office to take care of Katie. Katie? A child? Yes, I know, he continued, but I can't trust just anyone. After her mother died, you know how hard it's been. I need someone who'll love her like their own. His voice cracked with a sorrow so raw that Natalie froze mid-scrub. Her chest ached for him, for this faceless little girl. She imagined a lonely child, grieving, a father, desperate. And suddenly, an idea formed. She wiped her hands on her apron and drew a shaky breath. Am I really going to do this? She whispered. Take a chance. Her heart raced. She was terrified. Of rejection, of judgment, of what she didn't know. But more than fear, there was hope. The kind that pushes you to leap. She walked toward him. Excuse me, she said, her voice soft but steady. He turned, startled. I overheard a bit of your call, she said, cheeks burning. Forgive me. He frowned slightly. I'm looking for a nanny, he said plainly. I think I can help you, she said. His brow shot up. You? She nodded, her legs barely holding her weight. I love children, she said honestly. I may not have much, but I care. I'm responsible. I know it's hard to find someone who truly wants the best for your child. I may not be experienced, but I'm willing to learn. I'll do my best. He studied her carefully. Do you know how difficult it is to care for a grieving child? He asked. I do, she said, and I'm not afraid of the hard parts. Something in her gaze, so open, so raw, made him pause. I've run out of options, he admitted. Maybe this is worth a try. He extended his hand. My name is Daniel. Natalie, she replied, shaking it. His hand was warm, steady. The touch sent a spark through her. They agreed to meet the next day at a quiet cafe outside town. She would need to prove herself, to prepare, to be ready. Natalie watched his SUV disappear into traffic, and for the first time in a long time, something lit up inside her. Hope. She turned back to her job. The work was just as hard, but it felt different now. She looked down at her belly and whispered, Everything's going to be okay, baby. We're going to be all right. The next morning, Natalie woke up early, her heart pounding with anticipation. She spent nearly an hour choosing what to wear. She wanted to look neat, trustworthy, like someone who could care for a child. But her growing belly limited her options. In the end, she settled on a simple dress and a light cardigan. She arrived at the cafe a full 30 minutes early. Her hands trembled as she held her cup of tea, her eyes fixed on the door. Then she saw him, Daniel, wearing another sharp suit, calm, confident. He nodded in greeting and walked over to her table. "Good morning, Natalie," he said politely. "Good morning, Daniel," she replied, trying to steady her nerves. They ordered coffee and began to talk. Daniel asked about her life, her family, her plans. Natalie answered honestly. She didn't hide her struggles. She told him about her dream of becoming a teacher, how she couldn't afford college. She shared how much she loved children, reading to them, playing, teaching. Her face lit up when she spoke of it. Daniel listened carefully, silently. He noticed the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about kids. The warmth in her voice wasn't rehearsed, it was real. "I know you don't have professional experience," he said at last, "but I believe you have a good heart, and that might be enough." Natalie held her breath. "I'd like to offer you a chance," he continued. "Spend a day with my daughter. Play with her. Read to her. Let's see how you two connect." Tears welled in Natalie's eyes. She had hoped for a chance, but this felt like a miracle. "I'd love that," she whispered. "I'll do my very best." Daniel smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in a long while. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., I'll be waiting." Natalie left the cafe with her heart racing. She was excited, scared, hopeful. Her future might rest on the bond she could form with a little girl who had lost everything. The next morning, Natalie stood outside Daniel's house, hands clenched nervously. She inhaled deeply. This was it. This was the door to her second chance. Daniel opened it, dressed casually this time. "Good morning, Natalie. Come in." She followed him into a warm, quiet living room where a small girl, maybe 5, sat on the couch, hugging a stuffed animal. Big, sad eyes stared back at her. "Katie," Daniel said gently, "this is Natalie. She's going to spend some time with you today." Natalie crouched to the child's level. "Hi, Katie," she said softly. "It's so nice to meet you." Katie didn't reply. She clutched her toy tighter. "I'll be in my study if you need me," Daniel said quietly, and left them alone. Natalie knew trust wouldn't come easily. She scanned the room and spotted a bookshelf. "Wow," she said with genuine wonder. "So many books. Want to read one together?" Katie said nothing but looked toward the shelf. Slowly, cautiously, she got up and walked over. Natalie picked a colorful fairy tale. "This one's about a princess. Want to hear it?" Katie nodded faintly. Natalie began reading with animation, changing voices, making silly sounds, pouring her heart into every word. Katie leaned in, eyes wide. That day, Natalie gave her everything. She read, played dolls, drew silly animals, and sang lullabies. By the afternoon, Katie was laughing, giggling, holding Natalie's hand. When Daniel returned, he froze at the sight. Katie was curled up on Natalie's lap, whispering something in her ear, smiling. He hadn't seen her like that in so long. "Well?" he asked softly. "Did you like Natalie?" Katie hugged Natalie tightly and nodded. "She's the best." Daniel looked at Natalie, his eyes full of gratitude and something else, something deeper. "Natalie," he said, "I want to offer you the job. Will you accept?" Tears spilled freely now. "Yes," she said, voice breaking. "Yes, I will." And just like that, a new chapter began. Natalie had not just found a job, She had found belonging, connection, purpose, and perhaps something even more. In the weeks that followed, she and Katie became inseparable. The girl clung to her like a sister, like a mother. Natalie felt her heart mending in the warmth of that little girl's embrace. She tucked Katie into bed each night with a lullaby and a kiss on the forehead. One night, as she gently closed the bedroom door, she walked into the kitchen and found Daniel at the table, surrounded by paperwork. "She asleep?" he asked with a quiet smile. Natalie nodded, dropping into the chair across from him. "She wore me out today at the park," she said with a tired laugh. Daniel chuckled, but then his gaze softened, grew more serious. "Natalie, Whatever he was about to say was cut short by the sound of the doorbell. They looked at each other, puzzled. Who could be visiting this late? Daniel opened the door, and Natalie's breath caught. Ethan. He looked exhausted, disheveled, and guilt-ridden. "I need to talk to you," he said hoarsely. Natalie froze. "I made a mistake," Ethan said, stepping forward. "I was a fool. I see that now. I can't live without you." Daniel stepped forward protectively. "She doesn't want to see you," he said firmly. "You should leave." "This isn't your business," Ethan snapped. "Natalie, please, just hear me out." Natalie stepped beside Daniel, her voice calm but steady. "There's nothing left to say, Ethan." "Please," he pleaded. "I know I messed up, but I still love you." "You only love yourself," she replied. "And I'm not that naive girl you left behind." Daniel took her hand. "She's with me now," he said. "She's part of our family." The word family echoed like thunder in the quiet hall. Ethan's face contorted in disbelief. "You're with him?" Natalie didn't flinch. "Yes, and I'm happy. You're too late." Fury sparked in Ethan's eyes. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You'll come crawling back." But Natalie just smiled, a knowing, powerful smile. "I never will. I found my strength. I found my home." Ethan muttered a curse and turned away, disappearing into the night. Natalie exhaled, her body trembling with relief. Daniel wrapped an arm around her, his embrace strong and sure. "It's over," he whispered. "He won't come back." She leaned into him, heart steady for the first time in a long time. And in that moment, she realized, love doesn't always come the way we imagine. Sometimes it comes in broken pieces, through hard work and gentle hearts. But when it comes, it heals everything. Months passed. Natalie's belly had grown round and full, and with every kick, every flutter, she felt more certain of her path. She and Daniel decided to marry, quietly, intimately, without spectacle. Just a handful of close friends, a few candles, and a garden filled with late spring flowers. Katie wore a white dress and held Natalie's hand throughout the entire ceremony, beaming up at her and calling her Mommy. That day, Natalie felt like the luckiest woman on earth. She stood beside a man who had seen her at her lowest and loved her still. A man who made her feel safe, cherished, and whole. After the wedding, they moved into a new home, far from the car wash, far from her old life, far from pain. Daniel sold his business and opened a small family restaurant. Natalie handled the finances and helped with events. Katie loved being in the kitchen, decorating cookies, helping the chefs, laughing again. Soon after, their son was born. A healthy, perfect little boy. They named him Jack. Their family was complete. Some nights, as she rocked Jack in her arms and watched Katie draw fairy tale castles at the kitchen table, Natalie would think back to where she had started, the cold garage, the bitter betrayal, the tears on her wedding dress. And she would smile, because it was there, in the oil-stained darkness, that her second chance had begun. She had risen, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And if you're listening now, holding on to hurt, feeling forgotten or tired of starting over, remember this: even in your darkest moment, life might be preparing to hand you something better than you ever imagined. Sometimes what feels like an ending is just the start of something beautiful. Hold on. Keep going. Because when your heart stays open, even when it's broken, light finds its way in. And speaking of new beginnings, a recent natural discovery is catching the attention of scientists and wellness experts alike. They've identified a mysterious purple shell, a plant-based compound that early research suggests may triple fat-burning potential while you sleep. Yes, while you sleep. No extreme diets, no punishing workouts, just a gentle, natural way your body may reclaim its energy, vitality, and shape on its own terms. If you've been searching for a quiet but powerful shift in your body, something rooted in nature, not pressure, the details are waiting for you in the video description. You don't have to keep struggling. You don't have to do it alone. Transformation begins with hope, and sometimes with a story. Thank you for listening. If this touched you, share it with someone who might need it today. And never forget, your story isn't over. The best pages might still be ahead.